The human said, "I will return." Alien fox girl still waits in silence. The twin moons lift over the broken landing field, and the alien fox girl stands with her tail wrapped around her knees. Her fur holds the wind like grass on a hill. Her ears tilt to every far sound. She watches the sky. Because a human once promised to come back, she does not know how to count the days in human time. She only knows that the moons have traded places. Many times her name in her own tongue is hard to say. The human called her Rose. Rose likes the sound because it feels warm and simple. It is easy to carry in the mind. She keeps the name like a small light in the chest. The field was a road. Once metal birds came down and rose again. Now it is quiet. Small plants climb through the cracks. A rusted beacon leans and blinks with a tired eye. The human who promised to return was a woman with steady hands and kind eyes. Her name was Claire. Claire came with a small team from a ship that fell in the dust storm. She was the one who gave water to a frightened child with fox ears and shaking shoulders. She was the one who knelt in the dirt and spoke with calm breath. She pressed a hand to Rose's head and said, "Stay here, and I will return with help." The words were gentle yet strong. They felt like a safe wall. Rose believed at once the storm carried the team away. Signals broke like thin glass in heavy boots. Rose waited where Claire left her. She watched the sky each dusk and each dawn. The wind cut and the cold crept still. She stayed because humans build things and keep them. That is what Claire said when she fixed the beacon with a strip of wire and a smile that looked like sunrise. Humans build humans, keep humans, return on the fourth cycle. A trader passed with metal teeth and loud steps. He laughed when he saw a lone fox girl. He called her lost. He waved a light stick and offered stale rations. Rose stepped back and held her tail like a shield. She spoke with a strong voice because Claire had said, "Use your voice when fear comes." The trader moved on with a curse when the beacon flashed and made him squint on the seventh cycle. Scavengers crawled over the dry ground. They carried hooks and nets. They spoke of easy coin. They did not know the beacon could speak to orbit when the sky was clear. Rose had learned the sequence from the notes Claire left on a strip of cloth. 3 long and 2 short. Wait, 3 long and 2 short. Hope. Rose tapped the code on the beacon frame until her knuckles went numb. Far above, a silent satellite woke with a pale blink. Somewhere a screen lit in a human station. No one came that night, but the scavengers saw the flash and kept their distance. They left with angry feet and empty hands. On the 10th cycle, a miner named Lillian found Rose curled under a wing plate. Lillian had a soft scarf and a firm voice. She said, "Child, come with me and I will give you soup." Rose shook her head. "Claire will return." Lillian frowned at the sky. She said, "People say many things when the wind is loud." Rose said, "Claire does not lie." Lillian sighed and left a pouch of dried fruit. She said, "Keep warm. You owe me nothing." She walked away with slow steps that meant worry and care. Rose kept the pouch, but she stayed at night. Rose learned the stars by shape. She named them in her own way: the spear, the river, the open door. She made a map on the dirt with a stick. She traced the path that a rescue craft would take if it came from the human base. On the north ridge, she marked the rim of the dust sea and the high thunder plain. She whispered the map to herself so she would not forget. She was always ready to guide Claire back to the team. She was always ready to be useful. Wind wrote patterns. In the sand, footsteps came and went. Time turned like a slow wheel. Each day, Rose practiced the small lessons Claire gave in a short hour of calm. How to bind a cut. How to hide heat from a drone. How to read the tilt of smoke. How to stand tall. So, the mind does not fold. These were human lessons, and Rose carried them like treasure. One afternoon, the ground trembled. A shuttle screamed across the low clouds. It came in too fast. Rose jumped and waved both arms. The shuttle flared and skipped. It shot past the field and landed hard beyond the broken ridge. A spire fell and dust rose in a wide ring. Rose ran. Her feet were quick and light. She found the hull cracked like an egg. She shouted in a clear voice so the pilot would hear the shape of help. A hatch slid open and 2 humans crawled out. Their suits were torn and their eyes wide. The pilot was a woman named Megan. The medic was a woman named Kate. Megan tried to stand and fell. Kate held her up. Rose pulled a panel loose and made a lean shelter against the dry wind. She boiled water in a blackened cup and mixed the last of the minor fruit with a handful of herbs from the reed pockets by the canal. She did this because Claire had shown her how to use what is near. Megan took a sip and found courage at the bottom of the cup. Kate looked at Rose with new respect. She said, "Who taught you this?" Rose said, "A human named Claire. She said she would return." Kate glanced at the sky and then at the broken beacon. She said, "Tell me everything you remember." Rose told the story in a plain voice. She did not twist it. She did not add salt. She spoke the truth of strong hands and a promise under the howl of a storm. Megan listened, and her face changed. She said, "I know that name, Claire. Flew supply runs for the North Ridge. A storm took her team and a pirate band hit the relay. The record is thin like a thread. Many think she fell in the dust." Rose stood straight and felt the wind pass through her hair. She said, "I am still here. She taught me to wait with an open heart." Megan checked the shuttle systems. The engine gave a cough, but not a song. The radio could whisper, but not shout. The medic cleaned a cut on her own arm and used a strip from her glove to tie it. Night came. Fast and cold, Rose lit a small fire in a bowl of stone so the glow would not give them away. They ate slowly and shared water. In turns, Megan drew a small map with a char line on the hull. She said, "We can walk to the ridge station if we move at dawn." Kate nodded, yet worry sat on her brow. The dust sea might rise, the thunder plane might crack with dry lightning. Rose lifted her head and listened to the sky. She said, "A window will open after sunrise. The wind shape tells me so." Megan smiled. With tired eyes, she said, "Then you lead." Dawn came like a soft hand. They moved in a thin line. Rose walked ahead. She chose ground that held. She found shade under old rails when the sun climbed. She shared the last of the fruit and then gave them sweet roots she dug with careful fingers. Megan watched the land the way Rose did and began to feel its quiet speech. Kate counted steps to hold the mind steady when a drone hummed on the horizon. Rose led them into a shallow trench that held a carpet of silver reeds. They lay still and slow-breathed until the hum passed. Megan touched Rose's shoulder in thanks. Near noon, the dust sea lifted in a low wave. Rose pointed to a broken aqueduct and they climbed its ribs. The wind rushed past like a river grit stung. They kept moving. The ridge station mast broke the horizon like a tooth. Hope rose warm and bright. Then a shadow slid over the ground. 3 riders on crawlers came from the south, scavengers with nets and hooks. Megan set her jaw. Kate reached for a flare. Rose stepped forward and raised both hands. She spoke a word from the old tongue of the desert clans. It meant peace and also meant, "Do not break what you will one day need." The riders laughed. They circled. Rose stayed calm. She tapped the beacon code on the metal rib of the aqueduct. 3. Long and too short, a high tone answered from the ridge mast. The riders slowed. They knew the tone. It was the call of wardens who guard trade roads. No one wants a warden gaze on. Their back, the riders spat dust and turned away. By late day, the 3 reached the station fence. A gate opened with a loud cry of old hinges. A woman named Nora met them with a blanket and a tin cup she called into a box. And voices answered with quick steps. A small rescue crew lifted Megan and took Kate to a bench. Nora looked at Rose. She saw the ears and the tired eyes and the steady way the child stood. She said, "You found the path and gave it to them. That is a human kind of thing. Even if you are not human." Rose shook her head. She said, "A human gave the first path to me." They led Rose into a warm room. There was light that did not burn the eyes. There was bread and soft fruit and clean water. Nora set a small screen on the table and searched records. She found a note left by Claire on the day of the storm. A short line about a young fox child by the south beacon. "Hold this place, and I will return." Nora put a hand to her mouth. She said, "Claire did not make it home. There was wreckage on the far side of the dust sea, but she kept trying to raise this station until the last light in her ship went dark." Megan bowed her head. Kate closed her eyes. Rose listened. The truth fell through her like rain that has a grave taste, yet still feeds the roots. Her tail trembled. She took a long breath because Claire had taught her to breathe in trouble. She said, "Then I will keep her promise. I will return to the field each dawn and light the beacon for others who are lost. I will keep watch where she asked me to wait." Megan reached across the table and gripped Rose's hand. Her palm was rough yet warm. She said, "We will build a safer light. We will set a new mast and give it a strong voice. We will put a shelter there and stock." It with water and food, Rose nodded in her mind. The waiting turned into a road that led outward. 3 days later, the station team rolled a fresh tower to the old field. They raised it under the twin moons. They bolted plates in the cool air. They wired a heart of copper and glass. Nora tied a ribbon to the frame in honor of Claire Megan, climbed and set a lens. Kate painted a mark that meant safe harbor. Rose stood where she once curled in fear.